the downside. And there are not that many downsides to what I'm going to talk about. The downside to getting a really good job or a very public job or a high-profile job. If you make a mistake, it gets magnified. Everybody sees it. Okay, that's the downside to working at a public place, being a mayor, being in a small town, being the principal in a small town. One little mistake, magnified. So when you give somebody a job like that, you got to make sure they're prepared for it. Not just the work, but the magnification of any mistake they make. Dez Bryant is the all-time leading Dallas Cowboy touchdown leader. Not Michael Irvin. Not Jay Novacek. Not Alvin Harper. Not Bullet Bob Hayes. You know how many great receivers the Cowboys have had? Dez Bryant's the number one all-time touchdown leader for the Cowboys at wide receiver. All time. Cleveland said no thank you. The Patriots cut Kenny Britt yesterday. They said, no, we're desperate for a wide receiver. We don't want him. He's the Dallas Cowboys' all-time leading receiver. Still can play. But every tantrum he ever had was on national television. There's a rule in the NFL. People inside the league call it the Dallas Cowboy rule. That you can only put a team on national TV in prime time like 6 times. Because otherwise, everybody would always put the Cowboys on. They call it the Dallas Cowboy rule. Every network, Fox, NBC, CBS, we would all put the Cowboys in our primetime late-night game every single week. But you can't. The rule was instituted to protect the Dallas Cowboys. So they're not playing the late game every week. And they're not doing that to their fan base, which, has work Monday, and you're making them go to a game at 8 o'clock. As it is, they're on primetime maximum number of games. If Dez plays for the Tennessee Titans, let's be honest, if it wasn't for the Red Zone channel, nobody outside of Nashville would ever watch the Tennessee Titans. Their first 5 games run at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 in the morning out west. You know that 1 o'clock game, Tennessee-Jacksonville, the one you've never watched ever unless you live in Nashville? They play that twice a year. They play Indy twice a year. If it wasn't for Peyton Manning, you wouldn't even watch that division. Right? So if Dez Bryant plays for them, nobody cares. Think about this. Tony Romo. When I say Tony Romo, your first thought, overwhelmingly, and it's unfair, is that guy threw so many picks in the fourth quarter. Tony Romo has the second best passer rating in the history of the NFL in the fourth quarter. He's the second best fourth quarter quarterback passer rating in the history of the league. But all his interceptions were on television because the Cowboys are always the most watched game on television. That's the reality of what is happening to Dez Bryant. There's only 3 quarterbacks in league history who have ever had a higher passer rating than Tony Romo. The all-time leader for touchdown receptions for the Cowboys is not Drew Pearson. It is not T.O. It is not Bullet Bob Hayes. It is not Jay Novacek. It is not Jason Witten. It is not Michael Irvin. It's Dez Bryant. And the Cleveland Browns, desperate for players, said, no, thank you. And the New England Patriots, who cut Kenny Britt, they're down to throwing to stuffed animals at this point. I don't know. They said, no, thank you. Be very careful about taking a high-profile job or hiring somebody for a high-profile job. Because any little tantrum, any little mistake will be magnified. Let me shift gears to this. I don't think I'm an overly aggressive guy physically. I bungee jumped, but I'd never jump out of a plane. And people say, Colin, you've moved all over the country. You must be aggressive. Not really. I usually stay at places for a while and then, maybe move after 7 to 10 years. I don't think my DNA is like super hyper aggressive. I don't like jumping off bridges, jumping out of planes. I'm not a motorcycle guy. I've been on them as a kid, but I don't want to get banged up. But there are times you got to go for it. In the NFL, I think you should watch what you spend, mostly stay away from free agents, with one exception. That's when you have a really, really, really good quarterback in the first 3 to 4 years of his contract, and you're not paying him anything. In the NFL, the smart GMs go for it. The Rams, the Eagles, Kansas City. It's very rare. It happens to about 1 or 2 teams in the league every year. Oh, this young quarterback's good enough to play now, and we're paying him nothing. If you're paying your quarterback under like $10 million a year, Rams, Jared Goff in that ballpark, then you go get Ndamukong Suh. You go out and get Brandon Cooks. When Philadelphia is only paying Carson Wentz that, you go get Michael Bennett. You go get whoever you got to get. The New York Jets this morning are in discussions with the Raiders for Khalil Mack. The New York Jets have Sam Darnold. Go get Khalil Mack. This is what the good teams do. If you have a young guy good enough to start now, remember, the NFL is very unique. It doesn't take 10, 12 years to go from the outhouse to the penthouse. They've got an elite safety already. They've got an elite corner, Trumaine Johnson. They went and got him from the Rams. Leonard Williams, an elite defensive lineman. Jamal Adams, an elite safety, but they were 28th in sacks. You get Khalil Mack, you've got a Pro Bowl level guy, defensive line, pass rush, corner, and safety, and a very good defensive head coach. Now, with Sam Darnold, you trade Teddy Bridgewater. The picks you have to give up to get Khalil Mack, you get back trading Teddy Bridgewater for picks. And then next year, you recruit the hell out of the offensive line in the draft. You got to go for it. And I'm not always a go-for-it guy. There are times in my life that I've been very cautious physically, very cautious professionally. And in the NFL, I'm not a big believer in big, splashy free agent signings. But there is a go-for-it time in the NFL. And if you're the Jets, never forget Andrew Luck's first 3 years. Just like Sam Darnold. They had a bad O-line, no running backs, weak tight ends, and marginal wide receivers. Yet, he was 22-1 when the Colts kept people under 20 points. This Jet defense is not bad, and with Khalil Mack, is pretty good. They'll solve their one defensive problem. It is pretty good. Then you got the franchise quarterback, you got the defensive head coach, you got the defensive personnel in every unit. Then you go out and you solve the offensive line. Because you got 6 draft picks next year, more if you trade Teddy Bridgewater potentially. So this is one of those moments in the NFL. This is why I've been critical of the Cowboys on this. Dak Prescott, you're not paying him anything, man. You got to go out now and spend some money on a big-time safety or a big-time wide receiver. I'd make that argument. You're the Jets. The story is this morning, they're talking to the Raiders about Khalil Mack. Go get him. Give up some picks. Get him back with Teddy Bridgewater. This is not baseball. It's not the NBA. When you're bad and you don't have a star, like Memphis right now, that rebuild 6 years minimum. You're not getting free agents. That rebuild in Memphis, Orlando, those are 5, and Detroit Pistons, 6, 7-year rebuilds. It doesn't work that way in the NFL. Once you get the quarterback right, and you already have one side of the ball, which is close, Jets and defense, and I can make it elite with one guy, get it done. Trade Teddy. Maybe with Teddy, you get an offensive lineman and a pick. The NFL's, this is why the NFL is great. It gives fans hope. Even Cleveland right now, they get Tyrod Taylor, draft Baker, make a move for Jarvis Landry. They're going to go from 0-16. A lot of people think they're going to be 8-8. I don't think that's crazy. I got them at 6-10, but I don't think 8-8 is crazy. Jets, this is your moment. It is the NFL's go-for-it stage. You got a kid that's good enough to start. He'll be spotty. He'll have issues. He'll be choppy. He's good enough to start. Solidify your defense. Go get a star. This is what the Eagles will do. This is what the Rams. This is what Kansas City. This is what they do. The smart teams do this. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.